We had a big week last week in the crypto world. Hopefully we have a big week this week as well as we head into it. There's a bit going on. There's a bit of talk around the US debt, which could be favourable for Bitcoin as we see that potentially increase on the back of the passing of the big beautiful bill. Now people will move more into Bitcoin, gold, things like that if they think the interest rates are going to start to go up. So that could be quite positive, especially after we've seen that pullback right on the back of the golden cross as we expected to see. The Golden Cross pullback in line with the tariffs on the EU. Have we now seen the bottom of that and we're starting to see that start to move to the upside now for that next leg up? Look, hopefully so, but there's no guarantees we're not going to see more of a pullback. But, there is still a lot of positivity, I think, or a lot of things moving in the direction of us seeing that next leg up for Bitcoin and for the market as a whole. Look, let's have a look at the market as a whole. So we can see here that we have Bitcoin sitting at 109k, coming up to 110. We can see we've had that little bit of the pump in the last little bit. We've got the market cap sitting at about 3.6 trillion. So look, down slightly, but I'd call that flat on the day. And I think we'll see more of that as we move into this week. The interesting thing to see this week will be the movement in the ETFs, because we had a really strong week last week, but it finished on a bit of a down note with that negative on the Friday. So look, we've got the volume down, which we can often see over a weekend. So let's see how that goes through the week. Bitcoin's still at 61% dominance. That could potentially go up on the back of this US news, right? If people will start to move into Bitcoin before we see that flow down into the altcoins. But keep an eye on that. Look, trending's hyperliquid again. We've seen that over the last little bit. You've got a few top gainers there like GX Chain. And look, as we go down, there's not, and we're looking at the daily predominantly here. Look, hyperliquid's at 10%. That's probably the big one. I think a lot of them may be around the 1 and 2%. It's green, which is a bit positive to start off the week. But yeah, there's nothing's really jumping out apart from that hyperliquid. You got virtuals at 10%, so there you go. That's another strong move for that one, and that's been around the last week as well, or actually longer than the last week. If we go into here and we look at the crypto bubbles, if we look at the 1 to 100 first, look, pretty green on the day. The week is green, little bit of red scattered in there as well, and the month is predominantly green with a little bit of red scattered in there as well. If we then look up to the 100, 200, we can see predominantly green on the monthly, a bit more red as we look at that weekly because we have had that pullback. And look on the daily again, definitely more green floating around the markets at the moment. One thing we need to be looking at here is, so this is sort of around when we saw that announcement around the EU tariffs, all right, and we saw that pullback in Bitcoin, and around here is sort of where we saw that the golden cross. Okay, so we were expecting the pullback. You then had the tariff news, and we got that pullback come through. One of the things that is another thing we need to keep an eye on here is the global money supply, right? Because we can see how Bitcoin sort of follows with it. It's a bit of a lead for the Bitcoin price, and at the moment, looking at this, you'd be thinking we're going to see Bitcoin move up again and start to take that next leg after the pullback. So let's keep an eye on that this week and see if we do start to see that move. There's a lot of other moving parts this week, obviously, but that's going to be one of the ones to keep an eye on. You've got Michael Saylor hinting at buying more Bitcoin, and we know that because he often posts things like this when they're buying more Bitcoin. So I only buy Bitcoin with money I can't afford to lose. So, and you can see his buy points as we go through here. As it continues to climb up, he continues to buy. And he looks at it as though, when Bitcoin's at 13 million, or even when it's at $1 million, 100K is cheap. So that's the way he looks at it, as we know. The other thing I like to look at as we head into this week is really around this coin market calendar. So I look at this every week as, if you saw my last Monday video, you'll know that. And just sort of have a bit of a look at what's going on. I look at the top 100. You can go and look at the top 300, 500. You can select your coin, whatever you want. You can filter on different categories and things like that. But look, we do have a testnet hard fork coming up on the BNB chain. Curve DAO has a vote happening. You got Mantle has an AMA. You got a mainnet upgrade here for Cronus. If you're in Lido, you've got a few votes coming up this week to keep an eye out for. Optimism does have a token unlock. So that's 1.83% of the circulating supply for that. And Gala, now we've seen Gala quite a bit over the last 12 months, at least the last 12 months, where, I mean, there was a lot of turmoil there. The founders were suing each other. A lot of people got out based on that. And you don't want to see that sort of thing. But they've got a lot rolling out this month. So, I know there are still a lot of Gala holders expecting a lot from that. So that's something to keep an eye out for. And then you've got SWE here as well. They've got a 44 million token unlock. That's 1.32% of their supply. Now, that on the back of the hack they've had and those sorts of things. Be interesting to see the impact on SWE this week with that coming through. So that'll be the 1st of June. So what's that? That's going to be Sunday. Okay, so we'll see that unlock. So you've got the hack. You've got that happening on Sunday. So, will we see maybe a bit of a sell-off leading into that? Don't know, but keep an eye out for it, especially you SWE holders. And Mt. Gox, as always, is on there for the Mt. Gox repayments, okay? And obviously the reason for that is because it was pushed out to October this year from October last year. But it's just something to be aware of, right? Because it can impact the market. There is a fair bit involved in that. But look, overall, there's a lot going on, and there's going to be a lot going on every week for the next 6 months at least, I think. So, now's the time to be really focused on the markets, focused on the charts, focused on what's going on, sticking to your strategy, making sure you have a plan and a strategy for each of your tokens as well. So make sure you have that plan, or at least start working on your plan now for taking profits. Don't get caught holding the bag. Planning your strategy by token for when to get out. Whatever your strategy is, mine's around indicators, yours could be around price. Just remember, as you go through, stick to it, because if you've got a price one, people are going to go, you might have a price. I'm going to be selling part of my bag at $3, and they're going to be going, it's going to $10, it's going to, and you want to make sure you don't get caught up in that hype, okay? For your own benefit, been there, done it, regretted it, don't want to do it again. So just think about all those sorts of things. Bit to keep your eye on during the week. It's going to be an interesting one. We're really starting to get to that exciting time of the market where a lot's happening. There's a lot happening, regulatory level, at the country level, at the state level, at the project level. There's just so much going on. It's going to be another exciting bull run, I think, for us. But remember, we're going to get pullbacks. Stick to your convictions, educate yourself, give yourself that chance. It's those little 1%ers. It's going to be the difference between you and other people and who gets out alive. It's player versus player. So look after yourself, okay? Just remember, if you're getting value out of these, hit that like button, smash the subscribe, click the bell notification so you're notified when I release my videos, and I'll see you in the next one.